Hey guys, welcome back to the Readers. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is a pro-revenge story. With the NFL playoffs back on, I thought you all might enjoy this football-related revenge story. I'm a die-hard Eagles fan, the type who shows up at 7 a.m. for tailgating with a fully decorated van. Last year, when we made it to Super Bowl LV, I was working at a management consulting firm managing several key client accounts. One of my clients, Marcus, knew about my Eagles obsession. I was the primary contact for his account, and over time, we'd become friends. We often found ourselves discussing football over dinner after our meetings. "You know, Tom," he said one evening, "your analysis of our market expansion strategy was spot on, really saved us from making some expensive mistakes." I smiled. "Just doing my job, Marcus." What I didn't know was that Marcus had arranged for a pair of company Super Bowl tickets to be given to me as a thank you gift. He had passed them to my supervisor, Richard Thompson, who I'll call Richard T., to surprise me with them. The Super Bowl came and went. We lost to the Chiefs, which was gut-wrenching. A few weeks later, during our usual post-meeting dinner, Marcus brought it up. "Hey, what happened with the Super Bowl? Someone said you weren't in your seats?" "What seats?" "The ones I gave Richard T. for you? The Super Bowl tickets?" I nearly choked on my drink. "I never got any Super Bowl tickets." Marcus's face darkened. "Are you serious? I specifically gave them to Richard T. for you. Do me a favor, ask around quietly, and let me know what you find out." Back at the office, I discovered through Sarah, our office manager, that Richard T. had given those tickets to another client, claiming they were a corporate gift. "Yeah," Sarah said, lowering her voice. "He gave them to that tech startup we've been courting, said it was a goodwill gesture from the firm." I was livid. These weren't just any tickets. They were Eagles Super Bowl tickets, 30-yard line. I thought about confronting Richard T. directly, but realized Marcus's involvement gave me a better play. I texted Marcus, "Hey, I looked into those tickets. Apparently they were given to another client of our firm." His response was immediate. "What the actual hell? Don't say anything else. I'll handle this." A week later, we received a meeting request at Marcus's office. Richard T. and I flew down, thinking it was routine business. When we arrived, Marcus had orchestrated a beautiful trap. In the conference room sat a woman I'd never seen before. "Richard T., meet Jennifer Wilson, VP from our operations division," Marcus said smoothly. "Tom, you must know Jennifer from the Super Bowl, right?" Jennifer looked puzzled. "I don't think we met there. Were you sitting near me?" "Oh, you must have been pretty caught up in the game," Marcus said, grinning. "They were right next to you." I shook my head. "Sorry, Marcus, I wasn't at the Super Bowl." Jennifer frowned. "Actually, those seats were occupied by people from TechStart Solutions. I was wondering about that. Why did we give tickets to a company we don't even work with?" Richard T. started sweating. "Well, Marcus cut in sharply. "Richard T., didn't I give you those tickets specifically for Tom?" "Oh, he couldn't make it, so he must have..." Richard T. stammered, looking at me desperately. "First I'm hearing about these tickets," I said, maintaining eye contact with Marcus. Marcus's voice turned ice cold. "Richard T., those tickets were a personal thank you gift from me to Tom. Did you give them to another client?" The silence was deafening. Finally, Marcus packed up his things. "Meeting's over. Tom, Jennifer, let's get lunch. Richard T., expect a call next week about our relationship with your firm." Richard T. tried to invite himself to lunch, but Jennifer shut him down. "I really don't think that would be appropriate." After Richard T. left, we all burst out laughing. Jennifer wasn't actually a VP. She was Marcus's colleague who'd helped set up the sting operation. She joined us for lunch, and we discovered she was also an Eagles fan. Richard T. kept texting me, "Need you to help smooth this over. We'll talk when you get back." Following Marcus's instructions, I waited 2 hours before responding with his demands: reimbursement for the ticket's resale value, over $12,000, our expensive lunch bill, a personal apology to me, a written apology to his company, and a requirement that he never deal with Marcus's account again. The other partners were furious with Richard T. I came out looking professional for trying to salvage the relationship despite being wronged. Richard T. lost his profit share from Marcus's account, and the partners made him pay back everything out of his salary. The whole situation made working there uncomfortable, though. I left for a better position 3 months later. Marcus eventually took his business elsewhere, moving to a firm where my friend Sarah works now. I'm still waiting for my chance to see the Eagles in a Super Bowl. Maybe this season will be our year. Fly, Eagles, fly. The next one is an entitled people's story. I bought my dream home last year, a beautiful old Victorian that needed some serious TLC. It was perfect because I love DIY projects and had been saving up for years to buy a fixer-upper. The house sits at the edge of a neighborhood, right where it transitions into larger lots with more space between houses. The price was amazing because the previous owner had let it fall into disrepair, but I could see the potential underneath. My plan was to restore the house to its former glory while adding modern amenities. I spent months working with an architect to draw up renovation plans that would preserve the historic character while making it livable for today. We're talking updated electrical, proper insulation, new plumbing, a modern kitchen, and an addition in the back for a master suite. Everything was going smoothly until I submitted my permits to the city. That's when the trouble started. A woman named Barbara, who introduced herself as the Homeowner Association president, showed up at my door with 2 other board members in tow. "We're here to discuss your renovation plans," she announced without even saying hello. "They clearly violate multiple homeowner association bylaws." I was confused. I wasn't aware there was an homeowner association here. Nobody mentioned it during the sale. "Of course there is," Barbara said, waving a thick binder. "And your plans violate our architectural guidelines. The addition is too large, the proposed paint colors aren't on our approved list, and don't even get me started on that wraparound porch you want to add." I tried to stay polite. "Could I see the homeowner association documentation showing that my property is included?" "That's not necessary," she snapped. "We manage this entire neighborhood. Your plans need to be approved by our architectural review committee before you can proceed." Something felt off about this, so I decided to do some research. I contacted my title company and had them pull all the property records. Turns out my suspicions were right. My house was never part of their homeowner association. The development with the homeowner association started 3 houses down, but the original Victorian homes on my street were specifically excluded. Rather than confront Barbara immediately, I documented everything. When she started posting notices on my door threatening fines and legal action, I took photos. When she tried to stop my contractors from unloading materials, I got it on video. I even recorded her yelling at the city inspector who came to review my permits. Finally, after she filed a formal complaint trying to stop my renovation, I had my lawyer send her a cease and desist letter along with documentation proving my property wasn't under homeowner association jurisdiction. You'd think that would be the end of it. But Barbara wasn't about to give up so easily. She started rallying homeowner association members to protest my renovation. They would stand on the sidewalk with signs claiming I was destroying neighborhood character and lowering property values. Some even tried to block contractor vehicles from reaching my property. That's when I decided to fight back legally. My lawyer filed for a restraining order against Barbara and the homeowner association board members for harassment and interfering with my contractors. We had plenty of evidence. Security camera footage, witness statements from contractors, and documentation of all their baseless threats. The court hearing was beautiful. Barbara tried to argue that even though my property wasn't officially in the homeowner association, I should still have to follow their rules because my house was visible from homeowner association properties. The judge wasn't having any of it. "Mrs. Barbara," he said, "you have no legal authority over properties outside your homeowner association boundaries. Your actions constitute harassment and interference with the legal use of private property. If you continue, you'll face serious consequences." The judge granted the restraining order and warned that violations would result in hefty fines and possible jail time. He also ordered the homeowner association to pay my legal fees. The best part? After the ruling, several neighbors from within the homeowner association came to apologize. Turns out Barbara had been terrorizing them for years with arbitrary rule enforcement and excessive fines. My victory inspired them to call for a special election, and Barbara was voted out as president. My renovation is nearly complete now. The house looks amazing. We restored all the original woodwork, added period-appropriate details, and the new addition blends seamlessly with the historic structure. Property values in the area have actually gone up, and I've had several homeowner association members ask for my contractor's information for their own renovation projects. Barbara still lives in the neighborhood, but she keeps her distance now. Sometimes I catch her glaring at my house when she walks by, but there's not much she can do about it. I did make sure to paint my house in historically accurate colors, which happen to be much brighter and more vibrant than anything on the homeowner association's approved color list. The whole experience taught me an important lesson about standing up to bullies who try to control things they have no right to control. It also showed me that sometimes fighting back isn't just about protecting yourself. It can help others find the courage to stand up too. Now I'm enjoying my beautiful restored home, and the neighborhood is a much friendlier place without Barbara's iron-fisted homeowner association rule. I even host an annual Victorian house tour to show how historic homes can be preserved while still being functional for modern living. Several neighbors from the homeowner association have become good friends, and we joke about the time their ex-president tried to extend her reign beyond her borders. The next one is a petty revenge story. I've worked in software sales for the bulk of my career. About 10 years ago, my company was hosting its annual user conference in Las Vegas. As a sales guy, I pretty much had carte blanche on expenses as long as it involved clients. Expensive dinners, drinks, tables at clubs, etc. The only unbreakable rule was we couldn't pay for strippers. Having been in the industry long enough, I realized what guys would do to get around this. It was common for them to explain to a manager at a strip club, and then they would have the girls' tips added to the bottle service. Even with that in place, I never thought it was a good idea to play that game, nor did I think it was a good idea to go to a strip club with clients. It was never a good look in my mind. I was roughly 27 or 28 at the time, and one of the older guys, late 40s, Jim, was the typical sleazy sales guy. He would tell half-truths to prospects, overcharge them, oversell, etc. The type that creates a hassle for the services and implementation teams, but he still got paid, so he didn't care. And when he got to Vegas, Jim would go crazy entertaining clients and himself. Sometimes he would go to dinner by himself, but say some senior VP was with him, and he also abused the stripper loophole. One of the reasons he tried to get a group to the strip club each night was that he had a very conservative wife. She made the kids go to a local Christian school, and the family went to church every Sunday. She hated the annual trips to Vegas, to the point he would tell stories that he wasn't allowed to bring his suitcase in the house. He had to leave it in the garage where the laundry room was, and she would wash his clothes and then sanitize the washing machine. On the last night of the conference, he organized a shuttle from one of the big strip clubs to pick up a group. There were some open seats he was trying to fill to meet the minimum commitment for free entry to the club. Jim saw me speaking to a client and invited us. I declined. He started mocking me about being scared of pretty ladies, or that I would probably nut the first time one of them touched me, etc. This would have normally not bothered me, but he did it in front of my client. I stated, "I don't want to go because I don't think it's professional." He left, I bought my client another round, and we joked about the douchebag. Then I was on my own and decided to walk the strip a bit and head to bed early due to an early morning flight. If you've ever been to Vegas, there are people on the sidewalk handing out cards that are essentially ads for escorts. They legally can't speak to you, so they slap the cards on their hands to get your attention. After a few drinks, I started taking a few. Fast forward to the next morning when Jim and I were sitting in the airport waiting for our flight. He had stayed out to 3 or 4 a.m. and was a complete mess and totally hungover. I was 100% and enjoying his condition. At one point, he went to the bathroom and asked me to watch his bag. When he was out of sight, I added those escort cards in his bag. When his wife went to do her laundry routine when he got home, she was not happy. She didn't believe in divorce, but they were suddenly going to church 3 times a week and had a weekly counseling session with their pastor. This also led to Jim dropping out of his weekly golf league. He was telling us all the story at the office looking for sympathy, and he swore he never took those cards, but couldn't remember since he was so drunk. The next one is a malicious compliance story. Buckle up, fasten your seatbelts, and lend me your ears, folks, as this is going to be a long one. I work in customer support for a company that provides specialized software to major players in the healthcare industry. Our clients aren't your average users. They're hospitals, clinics, and medical centers where downtime can have serious consequences. I've been with the company for 5 years and know our software inside out, so I'm often able to troubleshoot unusual problems and get things back on track without a hassle. A few months ago, though, a new supervisor named Alex joined us. He was fresh from a corporate management program and came in with grand ideas about efficiency and productivity. In his mind, the solution to our slow response times was simple: a script-only policy. According to him, every client interaction needed to be scripted to prevent wasting time on unnecessary advice. No more custom solutions, no additional steps, no thinking outside the box. If a client's issue wasn't in the script, we were to log it, escalate it, and have them wait for a callback. When Alex announced the new policy, I raised my hand, explaining that most clients call us precisely because they're dealing with specific, time-sensitive issues. Sticking rigidly to the script would just frustrate them and, in many cases, fail to solve their problems entirely. Alex didn't budge. "Everyone follows the script, no exceptions," he said, smiling in that overconfident way that made it clear he thought he was reinventing the wheel. "If even our biggest client calls, you follow the script." Cue a couple of weeks later. One morning, I pick up a call and am greeted by the CEO of one of our top clients, a massive healthcare network we've worked with for years. They hold a multi-million-dollar contract with us, and losing them would be catastrophic. The CEO is calling in a panic because their entire system is down. The glitch they're dealing with is blocking patient records and diagnostics, putting patient care at risk. This isn't just a technical issue, it's affecting people's health. As soon as he describes the issue, I recognize the problem. It's a known bug with a straightforward 5-minute workaround, something I've handled a dozen times before. But here's the thing. The fix isn't in the script. I'm immediately torn. My instincts tell me to help him, to do my job and prevent a disaster. But Alex's strict orders echo in my head. Follow the script. No exceptions. If I help, I risk my job. If I don't, I risk this client's contract and possibly lives. So I do exactly as Alex told me to do. I go through the script, step by painful step. The CEO is losing patience fast. As I drone through basic troubleshooting steps he clearly doesn't need, he interrupts, asking why I'm wasting time. I explain the policy. I'm only allowed to offer solutions that are in our script. If this doesn't fix it, I can escalate the case, and someone will call you back within 24 hours. He goes dead silent, then says, "Escalate it, now." I log the issue as required, escalating it for a callback. Within an hour, word spreads that Alex has been summoned to an emergency meeting with our department head. Apparently, the CEO of our client had gotten in touch with our company's leadership directly and wasn't mincing words. He demanded an explanation for the sudden drop in our service quality and threatened to take his business elsewhere. Rumor has it, he even said, "If your idea of support is running through a script instead of fixing the problem, then we're done here." By the end of the day, we all received an email titled, "Script Policy Update." Effective immediately, we were now encouraged to use best judgment and to go off script as needed for high-priority issues. Alex's entire efficiency plan was scrapped on the spot, and he's now under performance review. It's safe to say he's lost any respect from our team, and I'm not sure his reputation will ever recover after that blunder. In the days that followed, the story of the client meltdown spread like wildfire through the office, growing more exaggerated with each telling. Some people said the CEO threatened to sue. Others claimed he'd hinted at buying out a competitor. Regardless of the details, Alex's name became a kind of cautionary tale, a reminder of what happens when you put rigid policies above common sense. And as for me, well, I've been doing my job the way I always have, thinking on my feet, solving problems, and trusting my instincts. The difference now is, I have a little smirk every time I think about it. After all, I was just following orders. The next one is an entitled people's story. Remember this story the other day, after said coworker started meddling around with it once again. Hope I don't make it too complicated or long, lots of details unfortunately. First, a little background. I work at an indoor pool, and we have an attraction that we run every 30 minutes. Due to the attraction being potentially dangerous, especially to elderly people, we have a PA system in place to ring a bell in the hall as a warning. Once the bell rings, our guests have 2 minutes to get to safety or leave the pool while we lower the water level. Now, the building is old. The speaker system is an old 100V system, and the original amplifier for it is long gone, so things are wired up a little hacky with the new modern amplifier. This means every room in the building has its own channel we can turn on or off, but all are fed from the same input. Our boss is not a monster and knows things can get boring or exhausting depending on the season, so they added a small web radio to the PA system so we can have radio. And because we are all nice and friendly, we can also turn on the audio channel for the entrance so the cashiers can have some music as well. The only problem here is, though, that volume can vary a lot due to the way the system works. One zone has 15 speakers while another zone only has 3. But the amp sends the same voltage to both zones, so one zone will have normal audio, and the next will be too loud. I think you can see where this is going. Now, that day the swim hall was full, people were noisy, and therefore we had to up the volume for the bell to be audible to our guest, literally what the system was meant for. Fortunately, though, volume was fine for our little booth, so we had the correct volume for the hall and could still enjoy some music. Along comes EC, entitled Cashier. She comes into our booth, complains that she's bored, and turns on the channel for the entrance. We had that one turned off because the entrance has probably the least amount of speakers, so the radio would be quite loud there. So we slightly lowered the overall master volume to accommodate for it. Unfortunately, at this point, the radio is non-audible in our booth because the volume is so low. So when we rang the bell over the PA, we noticed you couldn't hear it in the swim hall at all, so we had to increase the volume and left it at that higher level. After the attraction ran, we were back in our booth. In comes EC and complains, "The radio is way too loud," and goes to our PA system to lower the volume. Now, I want to mention I'm only 26 YWO and she's in her 60s, but considering the hierarchy, I'm the one in control of the PA system since it's safety-relevant equipment for the pool, not entertainment. And I do take that safety equipment seriously after we had elderly people drown because they didn't hear the bell. It's already too quiet, especially in here. You can't lower it further. I say to nail down that the volume is, in fact, pretty low already and that I don't want it to be lower. "So what? You have phones? You can make radio yourself?" she says with that smug face, which pissed me off. In our little booth, there is no Wi-Fi, and we have no mobile data signal at all. Meanwhile, the entrance hall has a public Wi-Fi access point that she always uses to watch TikTok videos. "We can also turn off your channel. You have a phone too. You can make your own radio as well," I say. She looks at me, pissed, and storms off. Later that day, EC went to my boss and complained that I refused to let her have music. My boss then reminded her that the company is not paying the royalty licenses to play radio in public, so she wasn't allowed to have radio in the entrance in the first place. Though we handle this pretty easy usually, since nobody is going to realistically file a lawsuit over it unless it's too loud. EC recently, though, started pulling the same crap, coming into our booth and lowering the volume repeatedly while we aren't there. We noticed after we rang the bell repeatedly and every time had to increase the volume. Boss reminded EC the other day that the license for playing radio in public is about 2.400, which the company will have her pay as she is the one that turned it on. EC is highly entitled and considers herself to be higher in the hierarchy than me due to being in the company longer. That may be true, but the PA system is still not for entertainment purposes. It's my responsibility, and I'm not going to break the amplifier by increasing and decreasing volume over and over just because she's bored and can't be bothered to use her own phone. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.